Good evening from wherever you're tuning in, and welcome to another tantalizing episode of Metropole Sports Center. My name is Nashon Owano. Now, at the beginning of every year, there's usually good hope, high aspiration in terms of what is coming up in the new year. But the year 2020 was an exemption. It's a year that I believe most people will not want to remember for a long time to come. The year has not been really nice to a lot of businesses in the world. Apart from that, it has also not been nice and really friendly to sports in the world. Now, today on Metropole Sports Center, we have a two-part series on a discussion on the future of sports beyond COVID-19. Just before we get into the topic of conversation, just to give you a profile of some of the guests that you're going to be having on the show tonight, we have Umair Asif, who's the Kafka Welfare Organization, who's from the Kafka Welfare Organization. Apart from that, we have Maria Barakat, the president of the Arab Gymnastics Union. Then we have Kenaz Mensah, who's the former Secretary General for the Ghana Hockey Federation. Derek Ntege, who's an administrative consultant for the Ugandan Swimming Federation. And finally, we have Govinath Sigo Sivaraja from Sri Lanka. Govinath is the marketing and media manager for the Sri Lanka National Olympic Committee. Derek, maybe you could, I know you are not a guest on this show. We were with you here the other day talking matters football when we are throwing banter to Manchester United, of which we share a common enemy. Maybe you could paint the picture for us how the situation has been in Uganda during this time of COVID-19 in terms of sports and cancellations.
Yeah, of course. I think just like anywhere else in the world, we've been massively hit by the pandemic, but from especially those involved in sport, administrators, officials, and most especially the athletes. They've been really hit hard in one way or the other. But coming from a swimming point of view, since I do some work for the Uganda Swimming Federation, there's been hardly any support from some of our partners like the government, the FINA, the International Olympic Committee, and the National Olympic Committee. So what does that mean? It means that we've had to dig deep, and there's over 200 coaches that expect a lot, and this can only do so much in terms of keeping things going, keeping their spirits up. But on the other hand, FINA has allowed us to reach or use the subsidy, relocate the subsidy that was meant for 2020 to prepare for the World Championships and the Olympic Games 2021 in Tokyo, to prepare, to make the necessary preparations to get the athletes going. So that is underway. And still talking matters, FINA has awarded 2 scholarships to some of our athletes. That's and Chirabo. They'll be for with Phuket at to hone their skills, their sport. To ask me about how athletes and coaches have been engaged throughout this period. We've done all that they can to the coaches and the athletes. I no need to tell you that. By engaging them in online sessions, both as a federation and of our counterparts from different parts of the world, to keep them going, because this is only temporary. At the end of the day, we're going to get back to the pool and make a splash. And also, we've continued to encourage the clubs and the schools to uphold the athletes and coaches at a welfare level, still to keep the spirits high, because, like I said, it's no secret that all the support they can, because this is what they've known to do. Swimming or sport is what they've known to do from a very tender age. So taking something that they is taking away a huge part of their lives. So you've got to find ways and do everything you can within your reach to keep their spirits right up there.
Okay. Has the situation been the same in Ghana in terms of the welfare of players? And I know many people are not expecting the cancellation of the games, because initially when we had the whole situation of COVID, people thought it was just something that was going to affect other parts of the world. Personally, here in Kenya, I don't think we had even envisioned a situation where we were going to be having COVID-19 amongst us. So was the situation the same way in Ghana?
So good morning, Nash, and good morning to all your viewers. Well, most certainly so. We've gone from a place where we thought, it was going to be very temporary and everything was going to keep going till we had a shutdown. And then, there was a call for, a ban on social, events and everything, which also affected sports. So, yes, we've been almost completely absent from the field, with the exception of a few non-contact sports who were, given the red light, the green light to come back on board probably about 3 months ago. With the rest of us, on more than 2 weeks ago. So yeah, almost every sport has laid its league, its AGMs, whatever we need to do. Okay, so we've had a pretty big hit, considering also the fact that, even when things were very active, we were coming from a place where we needed a lot of, support and a lot of mileage. You can imagine what this does to us, when you're fighting to come back from a place of what you would call a dark place, and then, it gets even worse. But throughout the history of kind, we've been through worse pandemics. So others, this one too, we will bounce back from. So yeah, but we've had a really big hit, and I think that what would have the most effect is how we decide to come back. So things have just started. We see what remains to happen.
Gobinath, you are the marketing and media manager for Sri Lankan Olympic Committee. I think one of the biggest events that was cancelled the year 2020 was the Tokyo Olympics. How are you guys? Because I know arrangements, preparations had already started from your end. So what necessary adjustments were you and the Sri Lankan Olympic Committee did to adjust accordingly to the whole COVID-19 pandemic?
Yeah, absolutely. This is the question not only to the Sri Lanka but also to the whole world as well, because there are a lot of athletes coming for the Olympic Games. And a lot of expectation for the athletes, especially for those who are about to qualify, because some of the athletes, they have already qualified, some of the athletes are yet to be qualified, some of the even championships have been cancelled. So many athletes, they have totally disappointed, because we, coming from the developing countries, especially, we are relying on the high performance centers in foreign countries. So especially the judoka from Sri Lanka, and one, he went to up to the third round in 2016 Olympic Games. We are hoping him for the qualification, because so far no one's qualified for the Tokyo 2020 Olympic Games. Apart from that, some of the athletes may be qualified in the wild card. But without that, like we are hoping for the judoka for the Olympic Games Tokyo 2020. But unfortunately, like he just arrived back from Slovenia after his training just before the pandemic, but he is not able to go back to the country and continues the training, because the facilities in the developing countries like Sri Lanka is not enough to compete in the world championships or maybe another qualification round. So that's a huge challenge that National Olympic Committee of Sri Lanka is facing. But some of the athletes, they are in the United States, like swimming, and one of the athletes, she's running for marathon or maybe 10,000 meters. They are still practicing from there, but they have some facilities over there. But athletes, those who are training in Sri Lanka, they are really, really facing a challenge. Even this National Olympic Committee also not able to do much. They are continuing the practice locally, but for the qualification rounds, we are still waiting that when it's going to happen, how it's going to be, and it's really a challenge. Yeah. Waiting to get the qualification rounds from the international federations.
Okay. Maria, you happen to have been an athlete at one point in your life. Maybe you could paint to us a picture of what goes into your mind, especially when you've been preparing for a major event, then last minute it cancelled. Do you think you have the same impetus you had before that event was cancelled?
I mean, imagine all those athletes preparing and for several years, for example, for the like a major event like the Olympics and so on, and having their on lockdown or curfew or so on, not being able to travel to competition camps or so on. This first is affecting so much the economy of the organizations, the countries, and so on. But also the technical side. I mean, can you imagine minimal training at their homes, or like their performance will drastically go down? So from a technical point of view, from like when we know how much athletes put effort to train daily for several hours, long hours, and having this drastic change, this will, I think, will affect their performances in the upcoming competitions if we will have any soon.
Okay. Maybe also you could paint for us, since you are still talking to you, maybe you could paint for us the picture, because you're the president of the Arab Gymnastics Union. Maybe you could paint for us a picture of the situation over there and what probable adjustments you've done to ensure that athletes are training, because you know the Olympics is next year, has been pushed to 2021. Before that, then athletes still need to you know to practice and prepare for that activity. Maybe in what ways have you been able to ensure that the training of athletes is something that continues to happen?
I can reflect what's happening in Jordan, my country. Actually, things are not looking good for us. In the past 2 months, with the second wave of the pandemic, we have nowadays between 1,000 cases per day. So the government have decided to close so many sectors, and the sports sector is one of them, sadly. So that or 2.2 almost % of the workforce of the country are not working. Athletes are not training. Sports centers, not only like federations, like on sports centers, clubs, and so on. No one is training. There's no physical education there. Like there's so many movements now, like asking for the government to let this sector open. So yeah, it doesn't look good in Jordan. The cases are high, and the government is very careful, and the sector is not satisfied with what's happening and the outcome.
Okay.
Sad.
Okay. Umair, I know sports is usually looked at as an avenue, or as a way of improving social change. I mean, at the center of sports advocacy into changing behavior is Kafka. I mean, how have you been able to adjust to that? Are you still able to continue with sports advocacy even during this period?
So I think this year has been a devastating year for all of us, and things were not as great as they were supposed But the idea of sports sociology is to promote social values through sports and to promote mental and physical health of youngsters and children here. It's for a kind of non-elite sports side. But since March, we had to stop everything, the field activities, and overall it was not a great thing to do. But as we know, we were forced to do that, and it has created a huge gap. Like for months, we shifted our activities, our campaign to online setup. We have tried best to reach those youngsters, those children through online platforms. We were conducting trainings online, we were doing sessions to make them feel better. But still, I think it's not as effective as the field activities are. Also, internet connectivity has been an issue at some places, so it's not that effective and constructive overall. But still, we have tried our best. From last August to November, we have resumed our sports activities on the field. Also, national sports were resumed in Pakistan, but in November, the second wave has started here, and it's going worse with days. So now again, lockdown, everything is closed again, and we are trying to move back to online setup. I would say maybe it's kind of new sports, what we will do after COVID and what we are doing during COVID. So maybe we will learn soon how to live in this new world and with new things.
You know, at just before COVID-19 happened, most of the people had not really pictured a situation where they are going to be online. Like, not many people had invested in internet connectivity, having phone-enabled, internet-enabled phones. How have the people in your locality where you are working how have they adapted to the whole issue of going online? Because even schools over here are having problem adapting, switching their programs into online avenues. How has the reception been? Have they been accepted? Have they accepted the whole transition easily?
It's not easy if you are in the city, in the metropolitan city here. So it's easy for you to get internet and come online. But if we go to rural areas, the backward side, it has been a huge challenge. And what we did to overcome it, we provided people extra stipends to connect with internet, to buy the devices and packages. It was helpful to some extent, but still to cover a large population, it's a huge challenge in a developing country. Online, but here we have challenges, and hopefully with time we will learn how to deal with it, as we have faced it for almost a year, and still next year we will be living in the same world. So I hope we will be able to expand it to reach more people and to provide them internet through different mediums.
Okay. So has the government been supportive of your initiative? Have they probably helped in terms of helping you with internet penetration and accessing of internet to people who are not able to?
See, we have a population of 200 million here in Pakistan. It's not government was stuck with the issue of economic crisis. People were not getting food even during 19, so they were not able to think for internet and for sports, because first is about health and then food. So some institutions like the relevant departments, they have helped us to increase our outreach during COVID by providing internet through different mediums, but still I think it's not in the capacity of government to do that at bigger level.
Okay, thank you, Umair. Now, with that, we take a short commercial break. After the break, I'll be back with the panel and we'll be talking about the welfare of the players and also continue the discussion on the future of sports beyond COVID-19. See you after the break.